Hello, welcome to the Health In Show, an affiliate program of Homeopathy World Community. You've come to the right place to tune in and participate with your comments and questions. Love is the greatest healer of all. But sometimes, in order to change our emotions, we must take action in other spheres of our lives. We speak with experts in alternative and complementary health fields and hope you will benefit in some small or great way. Remember, you are wherever your thoughts are. Make sure your thoughts are where you want to be.
My name is Madeline Mackinnon, and this is the Health In Show, and we are a subsidiary of Homeopathy World Community, and you just had the privilege of listening to our founder, Debbie Bruck, who has passed away, but is always with each and every one of us and with you out there, even though you don't know her. She is quite the angel in heaven. So we're really happy to be here today. And as always, we bring you the best information there is so that you can make the best choices for yourself. Please feel free to join us in our chat. Just put your name underneath the video. Nickname will be fine, and you can comment and ask questions there. We're looking at it. You can also join us in Skype at computers, and that's plural, then the number 2K voice, and you'll come in on voice, not video. So feel free. It's an open invitation to join us. And you can also call us into the studio at 919-518-9773, and we'll take your calls from there as well. We know you have a lot of information. Share it. We bring experts, but you're an expert too in how your life is. And so let us know what's going on, because we'd love to hear from you. So with that, I want to thank Amnon, who is our producer, and making sure everybody is all copacetic in here and everything's working good. So thank you, Amnon. And I'm going to introduce Uta, because we have 3 of 4, actually, including me, of our board members from Homeopathy World Community. So next up is Uta. Hey, Uta.
Hello, everyone. I'm to be here again. I've missed a couple of shows, but I'm here now, so I'm excited for the show. And our COO, Chanel Steiner in South Africa. Hello, Chanel. How are you?
Hello, everyone. I'm good. How are you? I'm very excited to have Uta and Dr. Deepak here with us today. We've kicked off Homeopathy Awareness Week, and yesterday was Samuel Hahnemann's birthday, so we're all very, very excited for the week ahead. And I'm extremely excited about the show. So a slight introduction: hormone balancing cooking classes, one-on-one online hormone healing coaching program, hormone nutrition school, a holistic and implementable strategy to balance hormone health and fertility without synthetic hormones or medication. Madeline Mackinnon has been a very busy woman, helping women for over 10 years. Today, we welcome to the Health and Show nutritionist and founder of Natural Hormone Healing, Madeline Mackinnon, who is helping women recover from the often debilitating effects of hormone imbalances. Welcome to the show, Madeline.
Thank you so much for having me. Really excited to have this conversation with you all.
So where do you begin with your work?
Yeah, where do I begin? At a pretty young age, around my early 20s, I started becoming obsessed, fascinated with how food can change people's health. That I started to learn more about how, like, just food, all the nutrients in food actually does have a really positive impact, not just on our weight and on heart health, because that's usually what we're taught to believe pretty early on, is that's what food has, but it actually has the power to heal us. And that when I was in my early 20s, I started learning about it, just became fascinated. And then eventually I started getting interested in hormone health in particular, and really using food to balance hormones.
Deepak. Say hi, Deepak. We haven't brought you on the screen yet. You there?
Hello, everyone, and many congratulations to all of you about the World Homeopathy Day 2023, that is on 10th of April 2023. And we all are celebrating the World Homeopathic Awareness Week. And welcome, Madeline. And this is a wonderful show, the Healthy Show, and you are one of them who are talking about the hormonal imbalance and how we can cure it with the herbalism or the nutrition. So this is really a need of day for this topic because everyone is facing the problem of that hormonal imbalance and many of getting many diseases. Even you can say the many of the disease in the 90% of the disease are due to the irregular nutrition or the imbalanced diet. So we welcome you to the show and hope you will teach us about the best nutrition.
Thank you so much for having me. Super excited. I just wrote a book. I wanted to share live for anyone that's on. It's the Hormone Type Cookbook. This has just launched 2 weeks ago, and it's a book all about how to find the 7 main different hormone imbalances that I've seen with my clients. It's all about how to correct them and also uncover them, because sometimes we don't even know that we have a hormone imbalance too. Often we think our symptoms are normal, but then when we start to see the patterns and start to look at the different symptoms, we can figure out, okay, I do have a hormone imbalance first, and then start taking action to correct it.
So tell us a little bit about how one can realize that one has an imbalance, a hormonal imbalance. What do you see first, or what's a pointer for you that there is something out of kilter in terms of hormones?
I'll look at different areas. So if you are menstruating, I usually am going to look at the menstrual cycle and see if there's any imbalances there, because our whole menstrual cycle is based off of hormones. You have your estrogen dominant phase of your cycle in the first half, and then your progesterone dominant phase in the second half. So I'm always looking at, first off, how is the period? Do you have period pain? Do you have PMS symptoms like sore breasts, bloating, headaches, moodiness? Do you have heavy periods? Is a sign of a hormone imbalance, excess estrogen. So that's a good place to start. And then we can also look at other areas, especially with thyroid and adrenal issues, which we can cover. So you could have, I'm always looking at energy, brain fog. Brain fog is a big one. A lot of people will feel brain fog for different hormone imbalances. Libido is a big one too. Often, so many of my clients, they tell me all their symptoms and then they're like, oh, I also have low libido. It's very, very common with hormone imbalances. So those would be some areas that I'm usually looking at the most. Energy, sleep as well, and then menstrual cycle issues.
And is it, and I'm curious, do you have specific kind of like themes that are related to age or gender?
Of different,
Yeah.
there's, your hormones are going to change through different life stages, especially times of transition. So when we're talking about menopause, pregnancy, postpartum, that, and then for men, we have like andropause is a major one, but then as well through our lives, we can also have hormones change when we've been through really stressful events. So if someone's been through a divorce, or they've been through really just a lot of stress, maybe it's taking care of a sick loved one, your hormones are going to shift and change through times of life, through our own transitions that happen, but also through life, what happens to us in our lives.
Al, did you have a question?
Madeline, Here is one question from my side. The hormone balance is mainly suffered to the teenagers because in teenagers we are not stopping us to eat anything like the fast food and the junk foods. So how we can manage the hormone and the proper diet in the teenagers?
That is a really
Everything
good
scheduled.
question. Really, really good question because it's true. Your hormones, that is our teenage years, that's a time of transition. And that's especially a time a lot of girls, especially, can have major hormone issues. And often the onset of lifelong hormone issues can happen, like polycystic ovarian syndrome is really common. About 1 in 10 women experience polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is a hormonal condition. So we have to, like, it's a lot of symptoms come up. And as a teen too, what I find is it can be challenging because often they want to be eating more of the junk food, more of the unhealthy food. They want to go out with their friends. So I think building awareness. So if you have a teenager at home, building awareness about how food impacts you, teaching them that what they eat can impact their menstrual cycle, their hormone health, their energy early on, so they can build that awareness. And then just trying your best, because a lot of teens are interested in health too when they learn about the impact that their food is going to have on their body. So I love, like, starting with smoothies. Just breakfast is a really good way to start, and just looking at the areas you do have control over. So maybe you have your breakfast and make a smoothie in the morning that has good protein, good vegetables, fruit in there. And then we have the evening where you can have a really good evening meal that has one of the most important things about hormone health is having balanced meals. So having a meal that has a really good serving of complex carbs, protein, vegetables, and healthy fats consistently. So really trying to get in those meals as much as you can in the teenage years will make a difference.
I don't think about hormones with young kids, but I think about them with me because I'm obviously still sweating, but I'm past all that. So it's interesting to think about it that way. Are you noticing themes now in 2023 or 2022, or are there any themes that you're noticing that keep popping up that's unusual?
I think for me personally, I see more fertility popping up. I'm not sure if that's something that's increasing, but a lot of people come to me who are trying to conceive. I think there's a lot of people that are considering IVF treatments right now. I wonder if it's even more, because it seems very prevalent, especially in my generation. That's popping up a lot. And definitely menstrual issues like PMS, period pain, very common right now for people to experience. And of course, the menopause, as more people are reaching those ages, we can definitely talk about menopause, perimenopause.
Oh, please talk about it. Please help me here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 69 years old. I'm still sweating.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people think that's, they don't understand, but I am. Not all the time, but I am. So I'm very interested in this show. And I'm sweating now as I talk.
Oh, yeah, the menopause. I really like to think so with menopause. It's all the main hormone that's changed is estrogen. So your estrogen levels are typically lower throughout menopause. And I think what we need to do is support your body's natural, like, menopause is a natural thing. So our bodies are built for it. I think our culture really treats menopause as like a medical condition that needs to be managed. And we need to change our mindset around it. Our body is meant. I see Uta nodding there, but it's very much like a condition that we're just taught, okay, you need to manage it with drugs, or there's something that's gone wrong. But there's a time when our body, we stop menstruating and our estrogen decreases. And that's our body's going to naturally have to adapt to it. And that has a big impact on our bone health. In my book, I had a whole section, because I have a chapter all about low estrogen in my book, and how important it is to help support your bone health, because as your estrogen declines, your bone density goes down. So it's a very, very key, very, very important to support your bone health. And your estrogen levels are very much linked to other hormones. So if anyone has any issues with adrenal, so Marilyn, you mentioned the sweating, I would always look at like adrenals too, because your adrenals can be linked to your estrogen, like in menopause. So sometimes when we have menopause symptoms, it's not just low estrogen. They can be amplified when we're dealing with like adrenal issues based on high cortisol.
Wow, I didn't realize that. And I always looked at adrenals as, when somebody says they have headaches or they have sinuses, I'm like, adrenal fatigue, but like not only. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, as our adrenals have to take over producing our hormones, because usually our ovaries would produce our estrogen, but then as you hit menopause, your adrenals start to take over producing a lot of different hormones. So then if the adrenals if you already have adrenal issues, then it can be amplified, and then hot flashes, sweating can all get worse.
You said something really interesting there, and I was nodding because yes, the society has a stigma when it comes to menopause. It's being declared this huge thing that deserves to be treated because it's a disease. So very good that you mentioned that, because it has to be made clear that this is a natural course of life, and that there's nothing wrong with it, and nothing wrong with anyone having the symptoms. So, but the other extreme that we have is the estrogen dominance. Now that's what estrogen, low estrogen is for menopause, is premenopause's problem with excess estrogen. Now, when we're talking of foods, give us a hint on how we can moderate hormone levels through food. Is it enough to tweak your diet to balance hormones in these phases when we're transitioning? And can you give an idea on what foods are particularly helpful?
Let's talk. So foods, when it comes to high levels of estrogen, make a huge difference. When I was writing my book, I was really blown away, actually, how much research has been done on food and high estrogen. I think it's because of cancer research. There's a lot of people who've researched estrogen dominance breast cancer, but I was just blown away how much information there is on how different foods impact all the stages of estrogen detox and can actually help to lower estrogen. So the food that you eat does make a difference, especially more plant-based foods have the biggest impact on lowering estrogen, fiber and plant-based foods. So for example, foods like carrots are just the simple thing of the humble carrot, eating raw carrots help to detoxify estrogen, because your estrogen needs to be detoxified. All the estrogen we produce, it needs to be eliminated through our bowels, through our sweat, through our urine. We want to make sure our gut is really healthy and that we have enough fiber to detoxify it. So I like that. One really powerful food for estrogen detox is broccoli sprouts. That's one thing where it's really high in sulforaphane and glucoraphanin, and it's just an incredible food. It's going to be way more effective than any estrogen detox supplement you can get on the market. So you can grow your own broccoli sprouts as well. So it's really empowering if you want to grow your own medicine. And that really helps to boost glutathione and detoxify estrogen, especially phase 2 estrogen detox methylation. So someone could put broccoli sprouts on a sandwich, in a salad. You can throw it into a smoothie, and that is going to be that's like the most potent. I love beets are great for estrogen detox. They're high in a compound called betaine, which is essential for phase 2 estrogen methylation. And all the cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, kale, cauliflower, that full list is excellent. Those are some of my go-tos when it comes to estrogen dominance and estrogen detox, but 100% your diet can make a really big difference.
And you're talking raw, right?
Raw is good. Usually I like a combination of raw and cooked because there's benefits to each one and it depends what you're having. But in particular, the raw for carrots and broccoli sprouts are important.
And I want to know about foods for menopause,
Oh.
stopping to the sweats or just whatever. I'm very interested in this. I'm so glad that Chanel, Uta, had you come on today because it's a really important topic. There's so much going on in the world, and these are the things that we can control on some level, and that we can help ourselves feel better.
Yes, we all need to eat every single day. We all need to eat 3 meals a day. So why not make it be something
right? And I love that you're talking about acceptance, because I just had a conversation with a client who has somebody in her family that may be bipolar. You're not going to get rid of it. You're not going to get rid of it. So it's that person's way of living. If we get rid of that, that's their life. They don't know what my life is like if I'm not bipolar, nor do I know what it's like to be living with bipolar as a person living in bipolar, So we just have to accept and then treat our lives accordingly. So I love that. I'd love to know about, more with menopause and so forth, but Chanel, I didn't want to overlook you.
Never overlooked. This is a very, very interesting conversation. And I mean, in homeopathy, we always say that all of the lifestyle changes that we make or the lifestyle decisions that we make daily affect not only how our remedies that we prescribe or use work, but I mean, sometimes that's all we need. Sometimes someone comes into our office and, hey, maybe it's nutrition. You're just not eating properly. And if we can change that, we can work on that, then a remedy isn't maybe the best route right now. So it's great that we're having this conversation that food is health, food is life. The question that I really want to cover, because it comes up a lot in my personal practice, is snacks. It's not always easy for people to change their diet. It's not easy to adopt a new way of thinking about diet. What are your easy go-to snacks because Marilyn's so interested, for menopause? I mean, if someone is hungry and they don't want to have that full meal because we know that our bodies change drastically with hormones, what is that what are the go-to snacks for women who are getting menopause symptoms?
Really that's a great question. With snacks, I think that people complicate snacks too much. I always like with snacks to go for just the simple whole foods, 100% for everyone. So I'm all about, let's just get back to basics first. Like fruit. I love fruit, nuts. If you do have dairy, cheese, getting to the basics, being very simple with snacks. In particular with menopause, that's a good question, because when you go into menopause, you actually burn less calories because the body required around 200 calories per day for menstruation and for running the whole menstrual cycle. So you do burn less calories. But I think really for menopause, snacking consistently actually helps with hot flashes. There's been studies done that eating consistently, eating snacks between meals can actually help a lot. So I really think having some snack that has a little bit of protein, and a little bit of fat in there too. So like all like some nuts. Like I have a recipe for these bliss balls where you take almond butter, you add like a tiny bit of honey, some cacao, and then you make these little truffles with them. That recipe is in the book, and I've been sharing that recipe for a long time, but something that has that the healthy fats, but those consistent eating. A smoothie is a great thing too, especially if you add some fats. So usually if I do a smoothie, a really classic smoothie recipe could be a cup of berries, a tablespoon of almond butter, and some protein powder, and some type of liquid. It could be some type of milk or water. Really easy, really fast, really simple. I saw Uta waving there when I was talking about the snacking. But
Isn't it incredible?
Yeah.
We have something to look forward to when we go through that big transition. We can snack all the time.
I know, isn't it wonderful? Like I don't even like I'm thinking, oh goodness gracious, what would my mother say?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is okay, so good. So snack, I didn't even think of that, snacking. So that's good. And then I know I don't want to leave out men either, right? So snacking is good for women with menopause or whoever. And what's like just a basic good food, just to take in when you are in a form of menopause.
Anything with vitamin E. I like tahini. Sesame seed is a perfect food because it has phytoestrogens, really gentle phytoestrogens. It has calcium for bone health. You really need bone building nutrients big time in menopause. It's something that I'm such a firm believer we need to prioritize because your nutrients have to replace that lack of estrogen. And what else does sesame have? It also has B6, which is really good for headaches, just general hormone imbalances, and it has those healthy fats.
Ah,
Mm-hmm.
such a simple thing.
Yes,
You
such
know,
a simple thing.
and I like simple. You know, I have a motto, keep it simple, stupid. I mean, but keeping it simple is easy to maintain. So
Mm-hmm.
that's good. Thank you for that. So, Deepak, anybody? Yeah.
I've got a question because we're mentioning the gentleman of the nation or of the nations. So when we're talking men, let's talk about the big one for men, that's testosterone. Any hints on the ups or downs and recommendations that you have when it comes to the menopause or the andropause and the levels of testosterone?
Yes, it's really important to do what you can to support testosterone because testosterone is not just important for our libido, it's also important for our energy. It prevents depression. It helps with our moods, our feeling of confidence, our energy. So both men and women, we need testosterone. What my biggest tips would be, don't stop working out if you're going through strength training. Having working to build muscle will help maintain testosterone over time. Vitamin D is critical, especially getting vitamin D from the sun, not relying on supplements. So when you have those times, if you're up in Canada, we can't absorb much vitamin D from like September probably to April. So we have a very short window of absorbing vitamin D, but when you can, get out in the sun or that morning sun around and get your vitamin D because that helps support your testosterone. Seafood is important. So having fish like omega-3 is really good for maintaining testosterone too. So don't just eat red meat or just rely on too much plant-based. The seafood, omega-3, helps to maintain testosterone for men.
Deepak, you going to chime in here?
So, yes, Madeline. because we all are clinical practitioners. So I am seeing many patients throughout the day. The most difficulties we are facing that a person coming with the irregular hormones, having the obesity, having the habits of irregular eating. So how we can manage in the initial phase? Because when we stop everything from the first day, they got the weakness. So how should we start the treatment of the obesity and the irregular hormones by the diet?
Mm. So what you mean when we're transitioning to a more healthy diet,
Yes.
how we should transition to manage it? That's a good question. I always recommend my clients give yourself some implementation time. Don't try and do things 100% at once because that's just going to be overwhelming, very, very overwhelming. So I always recommend give yourself like 2 weeks, 1 month to slowly start to implement things, slowly start to change your diet and start one meal at a time. Focus on adding things in instead of taking things out, or just starting with breakfast. Thinking about replace your breakfast with something that is going to support your body more, and just do that for a couple weeks. See how you feel. It could be a smoothie or a breakfast porridge. That's really helpful. Doing meal prep as well. So prepping lunches in advance. I have a lot of little tips because this is so normal. It's so human to be overwhelmed when we're changing our diets.
Thank you. And what about the intermittent fasting? Because many of the persons are searching the internet about the intermittent fasting.
Mm.
What's your view?
Good question. I think for men's hormone health, intermittent fasting can be very beneficial, especially doing it every 2 days or every day. And I don't recommend intermittent fasting as much for women. It depends on where they are in their journey of their hormone health. I don't recommend intermittent fasting for like for menstruating women for fertility because when you're in that stage, the intermittent fasting could put more stress on the body, and any sort of stress can impact the menstrual cycle over time. So for most people, I recommend against intermittent fasting, but you can experiment more as you're going into menopause. The body can handle more intermittent fasting and it can be beneficial.
Great. Thank you so much. In last few years, what we are working on the diet especially, and in our clinics, we are more focusing on the diet plans rather than the medication. So first we plan the exact diet, and you truly said that we did not stop the exact diet from the first day. We just inform about the same you said. So thank you so much for this information. Over to you, Madeline.
Yeah.
So you already cut on this a little bit. So I'd like to hone in on the meal. How do you spread your meals across the day? What's best to keep a hormonal balance throughout the day? Do we start with a breakfast? You mentioned smoothies. Is it 3 meals a day? When the big meal? When the smaller meal? What's your recommendation? And how do you start a really good day with a really good breakfast?
My top recommendation is breakfast within an hour of waking up. If you have an appetite for breakfast, it could be a smoothie with protein in it. So some type of protein powder, be that collagen protein, whey protein, a plant-based protein, or some sort of like egg dish where you're having eggs or even like salmon with some veggies is perfect. And then lunch is, I consider ideally the biggest meal of the day. Most cultures in the world, other than North America or Canada, the US, most cultures have lunch the biggest meal of the day. And I recommend people eat real food. I'm saying in quotation marks, real food for lunch. It's not the sandwich. To me, I don't consider. My fiance is from Brazil. and they don't even consider sandwiches lunch. They consider it snacks. It's always considered a snack. It's not, because their lunch is like beans and rice and meat. So lunch is important. So I find a lot of my clients who come to me end up always telling me they're having like salad with some chicken for lunch, but that can be okay. But I find you really want to have a nourishing lunch that has carbohydrates in it. So this, even a cup of sweet potato, regular potato, vegetables, and then a protein would be perfect. And then dinner, similar dinner, but just a little bit lighter. So, or maybe dinner is like a soup, but if you want breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then if you need to have those snacks, especially in menopause, have those snacks if you need at breakfast between your lunchtime, breakfast and lunch, and then an afternoon snack is perfect. And one of those really, really simple things that I find through my years of experience, so many people have blind spots around like their nutrition and just simply not eating those regular meals. And sometimes it's not even about changing what you eat, rather changing the amount and consistency of when you're eating.
So are you concerned? You're not really concerned with the amount. It's more what you're
Mhm.
eating.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, and finding that goal, that balance. So when you have carbs, usually I recommend saying no more than a cup with your meals, unless maybe you did a really heavy workout. If you're hiking, that's normal. You have to trust your hunger and trust what you're doing. So I'm more interested in having the right balance of carbs, fats, protein that satiate your body.
You know, people are confused. I mean,
Mhm.
what diet do you go on? You know, what do you
Mhm.
like this keto, right? There's all of these programs.
Yes.
People don't start with, hormone health first, right? They start with gut, fat or
Mhm.
legs or, whatever. Um, so what do you suggest? And
Yeah.
I think that's what makes it so confusing. Is
Yeah.
do I buy organic? Do I buy not organic? I mean, do I have to grow it or can I buy it? What needs to be, I mean, I remember it used to be hard shells, like hard things didn't have to be organic, softer ones did.
Yeah.
But it's confusing. You get all
Yeah.
kinds of information and then you do it now, and then in 5 years from now, they turn around and tell you you're wrong.
Oh my gosh. I I'm always thinking about this because I've been in the health nutrition world for 13 years and I've been confused myself.
Oh, good.
I've seen my clients confused. It's so there I think that's a great question, and I really believe it's about, first off, not going to extremes. Sometimes people think that in order to see results with their weight loss, that they need to do a fully ketogenic diet, but then maybe they aren't balancing out their macronutrients and having those simple meals that I'm talking about. Maybe they've never actually done that before, or like maybe it so is I think we always so what I'm really interested in is something that people can maintain over time. And I think we always keep on yo-yoing to all of these extremes of like low
Right.
carb, high carb, everything. But I really think the answer is always meeting in the middle. So I first off always start with, what are the foundations? What should everyone do where you're going to see most of your results? And then usually the 20% is like the other options. So again, it goes back to those meals. In my book, in chapter 2, I talk about the foundations of hormone balance. So it goes back to the structuring your meals first and then build off onto that. So then you have your list of certain foods you're going to include and add into your diet. Like I have lists on every single chapter. This is what you add if you have high estrogen, or if you have menopause, low estrogen, then you're going to add in those foods. And then, yes, the organic conversation, that's a good question. I think that first off, everyone should just start with the foundations. If the organic is feeling too overwhelming right away, let's get back to accessibility and those foundations of hormone imbalance. But typically for organic, I always recommend people go with that clean 15 dirty dozen list from the environmental working group is a really good place to start to know what to prioritize.
So don't go on keto?
I don't recommend it.
Okay.
Some people, of course, it's going to work for some people, but in general, for hormone health, I've seen it have a negative effect for a lot of people that have come to me because of the calorie restriction. And over time, it can really cause some nasty hormonal symptoms.
I'd like to ask a question because you just sort of touched on it lightly. Those people buying convenient foods or many store-bought foods have additives, and some of them have things that promote hormonal imbalances. So when we're talking about these things being in our diet, how big is that impact?
Yeah, so adding preservatives. That's one of those reasons I'm always recommending whole food as much as possible, or looking at reduction. With certain foods like processed foods, I'm usually looking at foods that could be an endocrine disruptor. So one of the biggest offenders is usually vegetable oil, is in a lot of food, which is when we see vegetable oil, it's usually from soy, like GMO soy is in vegetable oil, or sometimes we even see margarine in certain foods. We need to avoid that because that is inflammatory in nature, and when we have inflammation, the more inflammatory foods we eat, the more our hormones can go out of balance. So inflammation can trigger hormone imbalances. So always I would look at those, and then also looking at just avoid foods as much as you can with preservatives. Just keep to very simple ingredients. There's a lot of good foods and good products out there that don't have those, but just look at that, and also just think about like the whole foods again. If we go back to the snack, like try something as simple as like an apple with almond butter, or an apple with some hummus, or carrots and hummus. Just get those. We need to get back to those more basic whole food versions of our food.
And what about someone who is, having issues getting pregnant, and like for instance, my daughter has had 2 IBS births. So just curiously, what do you suggest for women like that? Because there's a lot of women like that.
Yeah. Usually the first thing that I like to do is see if there's any hormone imbalances that were not detected, because I don't think that they do a good job, especially the general practitioners. They don't look into certain hormone imbalances. So I've had people come to me who've had multiple miscarriages that have never had their progesterone or their thyroid checked. So really, and I'm always super shocked by that, because progesterone is really, really important for maintaining the pregnancy. You rely on your progesterone in the first half of your cycle, before your ovaries produce, before the placenta takes over. And then your thyroid too is really related. So if there's a thyroid issue, that can increase the chances of miscarriage too, and fertility issues. So first off, I want to look at really getting thorough testing done and see, is this client having estrogen dominant symptoms? Like, are they also having heavy periods, painful periods? Are they having PMS depression, PMS anxiety, which is a sign of low progesterone, thyroid issues? So first off, we want to do that testing. And then the diet also does make a difference, because you need, one thing we didn't talk too much on yet is just how to create hormones. Your body relies on certain nutrients. So for example, your body needs zinc for your ovarian hormones, like your estrogen and progesterone. You need zinc from food to produce those hormones. So I would also want to assess the diet and see if that person is low in certain nutrients in their diet, and if we can increase those so they can see better results.
This is such an interesting show, and I'm sitting here and I just looked at my watch, because it's important to keep up with the time, right? So we know how
Mhm.
much time we have. And I'm like, this is not one of the like shows that we've gone like crazy over. You know what I mean? It's just so good that I didn't even look at my time. And so I don't know if you're comfortable talking about this or not, but how do you charge? Just and do you do kind of like tele hormone balance work?
Mm. Yeah, I work mostly remotely, so I work with clients all over the world. And right now, I have a coaching program where we do hormone testing included within the price of that program. So that person is going to get private hormone testing that's really thoroughly done, because a lot of blood testing does not give a complete result. So I do urine testing with my clients. So we do urine testing, and then we work for a 4-month period on diet, on adjusting the diet. And then when we get hormone test results back, then we do some herbs, some supplements, some lifestyle changes, but it's mostly food. So I usually work with clients like in that format where they can reach out to me and do more of a full protocol. Find people get a lot better results when they can get that accountability with changing their diet, rather than me saying, okay, here's what to do. I'll see you like in 6 months. I find that can be helpful for some people, but a lot of people really want that, like, really see how their cycle, how their moods are changing every month, and having that more deeper support.
Okay, good to
Mhm.
know. And your book is available where?
My book is available everywhere. It's on like Amazon, Barnes and Noble, small bookstores. It's the hormone type cookbook. So if someone goes to naturalhormonehealing.com/book, you can get the link for where to purchase it in your country. It's already out in Australia, UK. It's out in the UK at the end of May, and then it's out in Canada and the US right now.
Uta, Janelle, Deepak?
Yes. Instead of the diet, because we are talking about the hormones, the estrogen, the progesterone, and the testosterone. Instead of the diet, what you recommend? Because many of the patients also came here in this clinic, and that they are doing a proper diet. They are taking a proper regular meal, but they still have a mood elevation or mood swings or the irregular hormones. So, what you recommend is other than the diet, like
Mm,
how to do the exercise or how to do the sleep pattern, like that?
yeah. After diet, stress, we need to address stress, because even if you have the most perfect diet, if someone is in a state of fight or flight continuously, that is the biggest endocrine disruptor someone can be exposed to, having high levels of stress. Really important for someone to work with managing their stress as much as they can have control over. Stress, exercise is important, and finding the right exercise for you. So if someone does have adrenal issues, they might not running might not be the best form of stress for them. They might be have more benefit from doing like yoga, walking, weight training. And then I do use certain supplements, different self-care practices. Like I really like magnesium baths are really beneficial for hormones. So bathing with magnesium flakes, like to get your magnesium absorption too. So those are a couple things. I love lifestyle as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Madeline. This is wonderful show, and we learned a lot about the diet today. And we also recommend everyone to please wake up in between 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. because many of the hormone is only released in the time in between 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. So this is the perfect answer for the lifestyle. Many of the person in throughout the world are not taking the sleep properly. That's why the hormone is also irregular. So what we are doing in clinic, we are giving the homeopathic medicine. And if you are know about the homeopathic medicine, that is very wonderful work of that remedies on the patient who is having the mood swings and having the irregular diets. So we can manage because throughout the world, homeopathy is the only science which connect your physical symptom with your mental state. Like if you are having the migraine, so we consider how irritable you are. So that is the beauty of homeopathy. So homeopathy medicine can be managed the irregular taking of the diet. So this is we are okay. Yes.
Yeah. So
I have
go on.
you go ahead. Pas de détente. Okay, I kind of just to wrap up a little bit, I wanted to know, because you kind of touched on it, but it wasn't sort of said outright. So in homeopathy, we say individual remedy, individual prescription for everybody. And I think that I got it because of that's how we think in homeopathy. You work with people one-on-one because each individual is going to have different symptoms that tell you the type of hormonal imbalance they have. And you're going to get different test results from the urine testing you do and the things that you see. Can you talk a bit more about that one-on-one work that you do and how important that is?
Yeah. Yeah, because even with symptoms of hormone imbalances, one person could have the same set of symptoms as another person, and they each could have a different hormone imbalance. So symptoms do not always, we can't rely 100% on symptoms when it comes to figuring out the hormone imbalance. It's so somebody might have high estrogen and have a hormone imbalance and all the same symptoms as someone with low estrogen, for example. So everyone is so individual, and also every single person is also individual in terms of like what treatment is going to work best for them, which I'm sure all of you understand in homeopathy is, somebody who I really look at like temperature with people. So if there's someone that runs very hot or someone that tends to more dry skin. So I work with the Ayurvedic doshas when I'm working with clients too, so we can assess like what herbs, what food is going to match that particular person too. All very individual. And then we have our own like lifestyle of how we are, like of, someone who has kids and needs to cook dinner every night is going to be different than someone that's, single, working out of the house. They're going to be different and they need different approaches too. So I always look at my clients like, what is your lifestyle like through the day? And then how do we match the treatment so it doesn't veer away too much from what you're already doing, what you're already eating? So we only change what's necessary. So that's just an example of like individuality, is looking at your constitution, looking at your lifestyle, and looking at your hormone levels, and then having something that's really customized for you in your treatment protocol. But then at the same time, if someone needs a place to start, you're not working one-on-one. In the book, I give a framework of what's going to work for most people and what's a good of the foundation of like what I was talking about, those meals. So it's like that high level with that, and then with that macro, and then the micro is when you would work with people to do that tweaking.
This is great. What else you got? Any final questions from anyone? I always have a question. Anybody? What Amnon? You're listening, right?
I am.
Do you have any questions about diabetes?
No, I mean, I eat hummus all the time.
Okay. Okay. Because that's a big deal too, right? Because
Yeah, I
Chanel,
mean,
go.
there's a lot of foods that will not agree with the diabetic diet. So, but You have to judge. I mean, if somebody is, they'll know what to eat, what not to eat. I'm sure.
And I think that that's an important factor as well. So if you have hormone imbalances, but you are diabetic, then that also needs to be factored into how you plan out your
Mhm.
diet, how you work with a nutritionist, right? That's
Mhm.
an important piece of information too.
Yes, definitely. It's really important to like address everything and all the other medical health conditions and find what's going to fit within that framework.
But this does make sense. And I love the fact that it's based on what makes sense.
Hmm.
Because it's easier to follow and to understand. So this is great. So anybody have a final question before Madeline gives her final words of wisdom? Anybody? Words of wisdom, Madeline.
Words of wisdom. Well, just know that if you're not feeling well and you're feeling low energy, brain fog, menstrual issues, look into your hormones and know that when you balance your hormones, it's pretty remarkable how much better you can feel when things are addressed. And I would just recommend people go check out my book, The Hormone Type Cookbook. You can get all the information with that at naturalhormonehealing.com/book. And if someone does want a free hormone testing guide, I do have, if you go to naturalhormonehealing.com/testing, you can also request access to get a free guide on how to do hormone testing.
Well, I, for one, will be reaching out to you
Okay.
because I like the practicalities of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it when things are easy because I cannot keep up with things that are too hard.
Yes.
So this is great. Chanel, you got Uta, anybody? Deepak, closing statements?
Well, it was
Definitely,
a
this is a
great
wonderful show.
show.
Yes, wonderful show. Yes, out
Yeah,
of great.
it was a great show. I learned a lot, and we certainly appreciate you having been here today, because this is an interesting topic, and this is a topic that tangents all of us in one way or another, sooner or later. So thank you very much, Madeline, for coming to our show today. We very much appreciate it. Chanel, what's coming up at HWC this month?
There are so many things happening just this week. Yesterday, if you missed our meet and greet at 7 p.m. last night, Eastern Standard Time, we had a meet and greet on I don't even know what today is, on Wednesday. So that's tomorrow, the 12th. And that one is at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Then we have another meet and greet on Thursday, the 13th. That one will be at 1 p.m. at Eastern. We may be adding another one to accommodate another time zone. We'll let you know about that. If anyone is interested, please let us know. Then we have an Instagram Live coming up on the 14th. That's Friday with Gabrielle Traub, and we'll be talking about pulsadilla, L-carb, and how you can actually make changes to your lifestyle based on those remedy pictures. That will be at 2 p.m. Eastern. And then we have our homeopharma course. We have one or two more courses left in that series, so please check it out. It will be available recorded for purchase on our website soon, so please stay tuned to that if you've missed the times for that. And then we have a book club with Sonia McLeod. We're going to talk about homeopathic provings on Sunday, and that is at 10 a.m., I believe. It's usually at 10 a.m. Yep, 10 a.m. Eastern. There's a ton of things going on this week. If you have any questions, check out our website, or you could message us on Telegram at homeopathyworldcommunity.com, or on Instagram or Facebook. You can reach all of us there. Otherwise, thank you so much again, Madeline Mackinnon, for being with us. And we will be sharing this to our website, and there will be information about her book and how to contact Madeline as soon as we get that up, probably in the next couple of days. So thank you again. Thank you everybody else for being here, and thank you on behalf of Homeopathy World Community.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Bye.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.